Look at this nail.
I think we're live. Hello. So, welcome to another live session in Decentraland Wellness Week 2024. For every one of you joining us, whether it's via LinkedIn, whether it's via YouTube, whether it's via Twitter, welcome. We have a fantastic panel discussion for the next 45 minutes with three of my absolute favorite people who have been working in Decentraland for, gosh, quite a few years now. And I am absolutely delighted to be able to learn from their experience about our topic, which is fostering community and meaningful connection in virtual worlds. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to HICeeCee, Shelley, and CK. And I wondered if, to start us off, you all could very quickly introduce the work that you've been doing in Decentraland and more wider, and your connection with our topic today. So, HICeeCee, excellent for you to be here. HICeeCee, I think you're muted right now.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. I forgot to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Cece. I'm a metaverse event planner, a digital artist, a world curator, and a one metaverse advocate. My home world is spatial, but I found my tribe across multiple worlds in this crazy, beautiful, fun metaverse of ours, especially Decentraland, where a lot of my heart lives. I am also one of the Metaverse 3. We are a space dedicated to exploring new worlds every third Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And I think that's the big part about why we're all together here is exploring new worlds and bringing the love and the culture of Decentraland and Decentralites to the rest of the metaverse.
It's fabulous to have you here. And CK, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. Sorry I don't look as cool as a VRM as everyone else. Unfortunately on Mac, you can't do as many VRM things. So I have my little picture here, but hi everybody, I'm CK. I'm a creative director and nail artist, and I've been bringing nail art to as many realities as possible, including the one we're in now, Decentraland. I've been a part of a lot of communities, so shout out to ABC Decentraland, the Metaverse 3, as Cece said, and of course, Community Building Decentraland. I've been pivotal in building all of those things along with my others that helped me do that or have created it themselves. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Super excited to have you here. And Shelley, I'm not sure you need much introduction, but please introduce yourself to everyone that hasn't maybe come across your work with True or is joining us for the first time in Decentraland today.
Thank you. Yeah, Shelley Van here. I am now the program director for all of SpottieLand in Decentraland. So the True Band Room is also located within SpottieLand, and that has been my main source of passion, just everything I live for with my music, love, and supporting musicians on their journey into Web3. So yeah, we are coming up. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. I've lost count, but last counted, it was over 800 live events in Decentraland. So yeah, most of you know me. Hello.
Hi. So we have these three incredible speakers with us today to talk about fostering community across different virtual worlds. I should say, if you are joining us right now in either Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you can actually join us in World as well at 61-61 in Decentraland. So please do jump into World if you can and say hello in the chat. And we will be taking questions. So if you'd like to ask questions to all of our panel here today, you can just add those into YouTube or Twitter, and I should be able to see them here on my systems. If you see me looking across, it's because I'm looking on a big screen for all the comments coming through. So to start us off, though, I wanted to kind of open it up with a very general question, which is, for all of you, and in your experience, how does building a virtual community for you differ from building a community in real life?
I can start this one, but I think rather than compare it to real life, I'll compare it to the scrollers, if you will, the scrolling social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's very different in that it's more about the people around you instead of building your own personal community. I come from a social media marketing background as a micro influencer myself and an influencer manager. So building on those platforms is more of an algorithm driven, you build community in that you are the center of that community most of the time. There are exceptions, of course, but in a virtual space like Decentraland, with that 3D element, it really is more like in real life, because in the absence of algorithms, you're building with other people and identifying leaders around you. It's less competitive in that way, in my opinion, because when you identify leaders, just like you would in real life in a community, you have your town hall representatives and people that run certain avenues, aspects of the community. That is what's happening in the virtual space. I actually think it's more like in real life versus the two-dimensional scrolling platforms that we know for community building in that sense.
I love that. Thank you, Shelley. I would love to add on to that too. I believe building the virtual community is very unlike an IRL one because it hinges heavily on leveraging technology to create this immersive and engaging experience. I think in virtual spaces, we do have to compensate a little bit for the lack of physical presence. And we do that by fostering a sense of belonging, interactivity, all through these different creative digital means, like music and parkour and all the lovely things that we do together. And yeah, our in-world activities are really, really unique to our digital realm that we reside in.
I will continue to add to that. I think, when I looked at it in a direct comparison, for me, it was about kind of having more direct access to people because you get to see them more often. When you do things in person, it's not every single day, usually, unless it's your job and you have to go to the office. But, when you go to hang out with your friends on the weekend, it's like on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday. It's not every single weekend necessarily the same events, but here we're doing that and we do that more often. And I think because of that, we build these really strong bonds like you do when you see people frequently out in the real world. And also like we're building a lot here. And so those people who became people that you're just partying with or hanging out with are now the ones you're building with, and you're building these teams and you're just building stronger bonds through the shared action of creating together. So that's kind of how I saw it myself.
That's really interesting. I think for people not used to metaverses, virtual worlds, I think that might be coming as somewhat of a surprise, thinking that in a 3D world, you have more direct access, that you have this repetition, that you have this sense that you're seeing people more often than maybe you would in real life, and then you're forming those bonds and building together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, when I compare it, I guess next to like my friends I see in person versus the friends I know from the metaverse, I know at any moment I'm going to jump in a Discord voice chat and I'm going to, people are going to start popping in with me if I'm just hanging out there for 5 or 10 minutes. And same with being in one of the locations, say in Decentraland, you pop in there, 2 or 3 people show up. All of a sudden people see it now on the places and they're like, oh, hey, people are hanging out. Let's go hang out too. And that doesn't happen IRL. Like I don't go to the park and my friends just magically show up. So it's really cool that you have that access and you just have people you can always see at any given moment.
I also feel like that my interactions within this digital space tend to have more meaning for me. I feel more closely connected to some of my Web3 metaverse digital community and friends than I do with my IRL friends. And I wonder if that has something to do with our social selves, how we have our our work self, our friend self, and then our true self. I feel like I am allowed to because of how I present and how I feel very safe in these environments for the most part, that I can be more of my true self. And if if you don't like it, it's easy to separate from that. But if you do like it, then you're kind of attracting the people who, celebrate you for who you are in your true self. So I do find that to be a big freedom with these digital worlds.
Shelley, have you found the same about your sort of sense of self in these interactions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think bringing I'm very much like my avatar. It's just an extension of me. So running around, being silly and playful and building friendships that way has been so much fun, especially, coming, because I found Decentraland in 2021, in the peak of lockdowns, and building those connections with people across the globe got me through a lot. And so those meaningful, just saying hi to someone and then finding out, oh, you're in Germany, and oh, you have rabbits as pets. And so shout out MetaTiger, like real friendships have been made through these virtual platforms and communities.
It's super interesting for me. I was teaching digital identity just a couple of days back at the university in which I lecture. And if you're not part of this world, I think you have a more of a transient relationship with your digital self. You kind of see it, okay, yeah, this is my my profile picture, this is my username. But until you've kind of inhabited an avatar and started to make those social connections through a digital self and world, I think that leap is a big one for people to make unless they've actually lived it and started having those connections.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that whether it's an extension of you in your reality, like I look fairly similar to my avatar, so it's really just me being me. But let's say in my real life, I didn't feel comfortable being exactly who I am, or I wanted to just experiment and try a different persona. My partner was a female for a day in avatar form, and he had an entirely different experience. And it was so immersive for him that he was like, wow, people spoke to me differently. The vibe changed. And so these immersive opportunities to experience a different perspective in life is incredible. Just as much as it is to just be yourself freely and run around in a different environment.
So that kind of brings us to our next question. So feeling about these meaningful connections that we're making as a digital form, like, what do you think are the key elements in making those connections and keeping them strong?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I tend to try to focus on personal stories and interactive sessions that kind of allow, your friends to contribute their experiences and participate, and really try to find those bonds to foster, this intimate connection that maybe is a bit of a challenge at first, but once you get settled into sort of like your digital life, you begin to see how people are making those connections, and really exploring different ways to define friendship and relationship.
Can you elaborate on that? These different ways to define friendship and relationship. What does that mean to you?
A simple example would be, when you're a kid and you are playing in a sandbox and another kid comes up to you and starts playing next to you. You're not playing together, but maybe you're side by side play. And then when you're done, you go to your mom and said, I made a new friend. And there wasn't really too much connection, but in proximity. And that's sort of like an IRL sort of very simple example. But there is something similar, or I could parallel that with my son loves to play this new game in my VR headset. It's called Gorilla Tag. And this just happened the other day. He jumps into this game. There's no names. There's just like voices of children in your head as you're playing this very simple game of tag. Um, and when he's talking to these kids, they're interacting, they're helping each other. So it's connected play, but don't really know that person, but you're getting to know them through the play that you guys are doing together. And then he takes off his headset, he looks at me and says, Mom, I just made a bunch of new friends. And it's similar, but it's different. But it's a new way of making that connection and feeling like you belong. So yeah, it's interesting, and I'm still learning about it as we go because it's all so new. But definitely watching my kids do it, it's redefining friendship. Like I wasn't next to that person, but I interacted with them in this way that made us both feel like we were together. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. CK, how about you? Are you finding the same?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think when I look at it from the lens of like what really helps a community thrive, I always go back to my own sort of morals and what I look for in life in general, which is openness, kindness, and inclusivity. If you don't have those three things and a really strong basis in those three things, because that's not like the goal, that's just basis for me. If you don't have those three things, you're going to have a really difficult time, because in online spaces, it's the whole world, and we have different people with different ideals, different identities, different laws, and their cultures, influence the way they act online. And I think when we don't have that openness, kindness, and inclusivity, we start to exclude people and we start to other people. And that usually turns into a really negative feeling and can like kind of be felt throughout the community. So you have to kind of always foster that and protect that and make sure that you have these safe spaces for people to exist and to explore, because again, it'll quickly turn on you if you don't have those things.
Shelley, what about you?
Yeah, echoing both CK and CC, I think that approaching this world with a very childlike lens can be beautiful for building friendships, because again, children don't have the preconceived notions that we do as jaded adults that have gotten through this far. The whimsical nature of it, if you can embrace that in yourself and approach people as people, and absolutely echoing what CK said with fostering and nurturing safe, inclusive environments is all of our responsibilities. And yeah, I think they said it really well.
So that sense of openness, inclusivity, kindness, that sense that everybody's coming with such different backgrounds into these communities, and that we have to kind of work out how that connection can work in these different ways, and seeing it, as you've all said, through the eyes of even a child, of redefining how we connect within these spaces. I think that brings me then to this bigger question of, okay, what are the challenges? What's going wrong right now? And if we can define that, how do you think we can counter it? But I guess the question would be first, like, what's the big challenge right now in our virtual communities?
I think I'll just jump in here first. I don't know if CC was trying to talk. I didn't hear you. Sorry. I think it's kind of what I mentioned, prior, which is that we have a problem with inclusivity and safety in a lot of online spaces. I heard a panel yesterday, and I, forget her name, but she was mentioning how you behind a keyboard and a virtual identity feel more empowered to say things that maybe you wouldn't in person to somebody. And that may be more harsh, more rude, or not even true to how you actually are as a person. But because you're empowered in this different way to share, almost like shock and awe. I think people really like that. They like the attention of that, and they kind of feed off that. That's where we get the idea of the troll and the edgelord, right? They like get their power from attention. And so I think, because of all these things, like we have to, as leaders, understand how we can try to listen to both sides, so we understand where both are coming from. And also those people involved need to do that as well. People need to be open enough to try and hear the other side, even if they don't want to be that, they don't agree with it, and they're not trying to have their mind change. Listen to it because it's valid. It's from someone else. And then we have to learn how to de-escalate those situations when we get there. Because again, it's really easy to be emotional and be reactional and want to just say it right away, what you're feeling. But it may not always be the best thing to say in that moment, because it may then trigger someone else or be harmful to someone else. And then it just kind of creates this aggressive scenario where other people start feeling, well, now I got to throw my opinion in because bad things are happening and people are being wronged. And then it turns into this whole pile of all these people sharing their very heated emotions. And it doesn't de-escalate. So I think de-escalation is a big thing that community leaders, bystanders, and platforms need to do better about, because it's a problem everywhere. You know, we see this all over the place. But, you know, it's a lot of work to talk someone down from like their elevated emotions and to do that de-escalation. So we have to share that work. It can't just be solely on one person. I've felt this a lot myself, and it does get pretty tiring to, you know, spend an entire week trying to help people and then have it kind of turn back on you, feeling like people are saying you didn't do enough, when it's like, you're the only one doing anything. So of course I'm doing enough. I'm trying, which is more than a lot of other people. So I think it's just about trying to find these ways to balance things, because life is always about balance. And we need to also then, after de-escalation, learn how to like process and heal from harm that's happened. Because when we don't do that last step, we hold grudges and we hold on to things. And then we in turn like have that project out in other ways. And that can really just infect and, you know, affect a whole community, and then some, even on the outskirts of it that overlap. So that's kind of where my mind has been at lately, is how do we bring the negativity down? Not to do, you know, toxic positivity, as everyone loves to throw around, but like get real and get grounded in what's happening and try to help people work through it. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same things. We all want to be treated kindly. So we just need to do the same for others.
I completely second that. Building trust and safety, I think, is key. It is a challenge and it's hard because we do have so many differences, and trying to find that common ground and live in that common area respectfully to each other is a big challenge. But I'm an optimist, so I think we can do it. Definitely think we can do it. I also think that privacy and data security is a really big topic. Protecting users' privacy and securing data is really important, especially in virtual spaces, because these are our digital identities. If they get stolen, you know, a lot of harm can be done personally and to the community, in my mind. And so, yeah, being informed and making sure that our data is secure, and it's everyone's responsibility, from the individual to the platform. We all have some sort of level of responsibility to ourselves and each other. See something, say something kind of a thing. Again, back to those childlike principles. So that, I feel that's another challenge, and that we need to continue the conversation on.
Yeah, I think these virtual worlds have really put the globe in one place. You know, we've got people from all over the world interacting, coming from different social backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds. And while a lot of beauty comes from that, the balance is that a lot of disagreement, a lot of, you know, arguments and different perspectives are coming to the table. And while that can also be beautiful, it absolutely has to be done from a place of respect and accountability when things go south. Like if feelings are hurt, just take pause, accountability across the board. And nobody needs to agree with everyone. That's absolutely not what we're here for. There's beauty in difference, and it's just the respect that I think is the main issue and challenge that comes with a virtual space, especially where, just like we've experienced, you know, in texting or email, if you're not face to face, if it's you know, my avatar is not showing my facial expressions or my movements, but you're hearing my voice and I can control my tone. But a lot of that is lost, especially with language barriers. We're dealing with different cultures that English is not everyone's first language. You know, there are so many multilingual people in this space, and it makes me feel so shameful because I'm like, how many languages do you speak? I'm like, 0.7 maybe. So I mean, there needs to be a lot of grace given to the different cultural collisions happening. And yeah, again, just basic human respect for the different chapters we're all in and journeys that we're all on, whether we're coming from, whatever country we may be coming from.
I think it's so interesting that you're all echoing this sense of this huge range of experience that's being brought into this environment. We're translating that into text with many people that don't have English as the first language, that come from different cultural backgrounds, and then we're all trying to collaborate, connect in a space where we still perhaps don't have the norms around de-escalation, around how we expect each other to contribute to that de-escalation as well. And I kind of wonder if you have any examples of things that have worked to maybe clear up a misunderstanding or de-escalate a situation. Have you seen any examples that you think, yeah, that's something that we could take forward?
I think it's just like, for me, when I look at situations, again, if I talk about myself personally, when somebody says something that makes me feel very strongly, I'm like, oh, wow, that was aggressive, or that feels like an attack, or I'm not sure if they were coming at me with positive intent. I tell myself, okay, well, I don't know that. And so how do I then respond to it to try and understand that? If I don't have the best actions in a response, then what I have seen in situations that haven't involved me is someone else may come in and say, hey, I saw this as this. And then the person who might have had a overreaction, to a response is like, oh, I misinterpreted that. I will walk back now from that emotion and try to understand then what you're trying to say. And that's where I think that openness comes from, is being open to hear other people and to let them further explain themselves. But having other people come in and try to bring down the aggression and the escalation of things, it hugely helps. Other times, jokes aren't always the best in situations. I'm aware of that. But at times, the right timed situation can also bring things down. I've seen that happen. I'll shout out to Sinful here, and some people who might know. Sometimes we just throw a bunch of cat memes in the middle of a conversation, and that gets people to stop messaging. I don't think it's the best tactic, but when you kind of don't know what to do, just throw some cute cats in there, and hopefully people will bring it down a little bit.
I love the cat memes. They always bring joy. I do find that for me personally, if I'm feeling a certain way, it's usually because I need to step back and look at it from a bigger perspective. So I think what I want to say is, um, check in with yourself first. If something upsets you, if you're feeling anger, jealousy, sorrow, like these are all indicators that something's in your body is upset. And before you go lashing out and trying to externally fix it, take a moment. I think CK said it, take a moment, look inside, check in with yourself. These are some tools that maybe people weren't given when they were younger, but you can still learn them. These are like self check-in tools, like, I'm angry because, and then you try to like look at it from like a bigger picture situation. And then if you do need to, you go to a trusted friend and you say, this, happened to me. And that trusted friend can maybe mirror back to you saying, okay, this is what you're telling me. This is, what my perception is. And then if you need to, you go to the person and you say, hey, what did you mean by, or you just say, hey, this is how I'm feeling with that situation. So it is like a healing process, or it is a process of trying to understand. So I think I'm just mirroring what CK was saying. But I always look at it from internal and then start working my way externally. And I'm not sure what other cultures or what are the other individuals are doing in order to sort of, maintain their equilibrium. But for me, that's how I like to work.
I also think when miscommunications happen, or someone does lash out, I think that it's good to have personal conversations, not in public forums, because then too many things are added to the table that escalate the situation with just too much noise around something that might be happening on a smaller level that doesn't need to be affecting the entire community and then, bleeding to everyone. I think that while we are in a decentralized space and everybody wants things to be very transparent and, front facing, that's awesome in a lot of scenarios. However, when human emotions are involved, that can be an intimate thing that you don't want exposed publicly. So I would encourage when things happen, and if you are in it, let's say it's me, my feelings were hurt, rather than go share that with the world, I would rather address that with the actual person that it happened with, because most of the time, people's intentions are not to hurt you. Like, it's really, and again, I'm an optimist and I love people, but if they are hurting you, hurt people, they're hurting. Then, okay, I can take myself out of myself and be like, what's going on with you? I imagine you probably didn't want to hurt me intentionally, but here's what happened. And, that's when beautiful relationships are formed. When you can survive something like that openly and honestly, it becomes a more unshakable bond. And that's with people in my real life and my metaverse life. So again, just not everything needs to be super public.
I love that, Shelley. I've grown some seriously like amazing relationships after having arguments and fights in private, of course, with some of my Web3 friends. And yeah, I think you're right. Our bonds have strengthened because we have built trust. I think trust is a big word that maybe we didn't connect with all of this is, you build trust after you are vulnerable and something breaks and together you fix it. And that bond is it just strengthens, and each brick that you build, you're creating that relationship that we talked about earlier, about these like stronger relationships in our virtual selves than we are having IRL. Because if things break IRL, you tend to mask it and you like maybe not address it as honestly and openly as you would in a virtual space, I feel like. Because while yes, behind a screen you feel safer and you could be a troll if that's how you're feeling, behind a screen you feel safer to be more vulnerable as well too, if you choose to lead with your heart.
I think that's so interesting, CC, that sense of the two sides of the coin. That behind the screen, maybe we feel more that we can lash out and we can express ourselves in a way that wouldn't be appropriate in our everyday lives. But at the same time, maybe we can therefore be more vulnerable and we can connect with ourselves and with others in a way that has that truth and has that vulnerability.
There's always the two sides of the coin, and that's how I live my life.
I love these. I love all of these. I don't know if you can see, I'm frantically taking notes, and it's. I think one of these conversations I'm going to be thinking back to a lot as I, in my own practice as an educator and also as someone that contributes hopefully to this space. I'm going to look across to my other screen now, not to be rude, but I want to see that we've got quite a few questions coming in. I'm going to see if I can share them with you for the last, I think we've got 10, 15 minutes left to kind of take questions. So if you are with us in world at 61 minus 61, we're talking about fostering community and meaningful connection in virtual worlds. We would love to have your questions. You can add them to the Twitter feed. You can add them to the LinkedIn conversation. I should be able to see them come up on my other screen. So I'm going to just jump across here. Let's see if I can do this in a way that doesn't look completely crazy. So we have a question from, I'm going to show this here. So I have a question from Gulnaz, and Gulnaz is asking, do you think that with your time your strategy has changed in the sense that at the beginning of using the metaverse, you wanted your avatar to represent the real you, but with time you wanted to experiment with ourselves?
Oh, I'll take this one first, if that's okay. Yes, I think and just the ability to express more has become available. Like, when I first entered, and I'll speak to Decentraland specifically, when I first entered Decentraland, the wearables were limited. we didn't have emotes. So it was very basic before I could figure out how to start buying my own wearables or creating my own wearables. I was limited to the default options, and, I just went with what made the most sense at the time. But as these worlds have grown and others have contributed their creations, there's this whole new world to experiment and play with. And, I'll be a minotaur for a day. It's like, yes. Or I'll change, there's just so much opportunity now to experiment with that, yes, it has changed over time. But for me personally, it has really been just an extension of me being very playful, because I think that's like, I have this chaotic internal child that wants to come out and play all the time. So that's my personal experience.
I love this question because it made me think back to my very first avatar that I created when I first jumped into digital spaces. And we can actually look at our PFPs on our social media as our avatars. And if you look at it, your very first one was probably a super cute picture of you at prom looking adorable. But as we grow and as we, explore, just like Shelley said, we begin to, I don't want to say add baggage, but you start adding sort of elements of your experiences, of your life, your scars, if you will, onto your avatar, because it is the, representation of yourself. And my very first like 3D avatar looked very, very much like me. It had like a big old mom bun, it had mom jeans and a sweater. Like, it was very much me. Now my digital avatar is a representation of my community and what I think is beautiful. So I wear clothing that is made by the people that I love. Fabulous nails, earrings, like these. This is something I would never do in real life. I would never say, you know what, Tina, I really love those socks. I'm going to steal your socks and put them on because I love you so much. You're never going to do that unless you really, really love Tina and socks. But so now I feel like I represent my community and what I want to showcase and say, look at all the amazing people that I get to connect with on a daily basis. And P.S., I look fabulous. So yes, it has evolved.
I think for me, I already have a very eclectic style. I always joke I'm like the anti-Chanel, even though I love Chanel. Instead of taking one thing off when I leave, I try to put as much on. I'm not a maximalist. I do it in structure, but I love really cutesy things. I'm really inspired by Japanese fashion in that sense. And so for me, coming into the metaverse, when I was making my avatar, like the first thing I do is I set it up usually as me, like my real self, just the base core body, and hair color, eye color. But then when I go to style it, when I do my fashion side of it, I want to do things that I aspire to be, that I would love to own or would love to wear, or just pushing the limits of seeing how I can evolve where I'm currently at. And I've seen this really lovely sort of play that happens in that I come in the metaverse and I find a new top or a new pair of pants or a set of wings or even a new hairstyle or hair color. And I'm like, oh, that is what I want now in person. And so then I'm going to I'm taking pictures of avatars to my hairstylist. I'm saying, I want this and this color. And I'm going to stores with an idea in my mind of things that I wore in the metaverse. And then I'm seeing, we watch drag race viewings on Mondays and people are like, oh, I want that outfit that drag queen's wearing now in the metaverse. So I really love to see that play that happens between the two and how we're really blending and blurring those lines of reality, because that's really what I love to do with nail art.
I love that. I love that membrane between the two, that things are coming across, that you're taking things from the metaverse and it's changing how you are in one side, in the real life side, and then coming back into the metaverse as well. I'm going to jump across now because I'm conscious that we've got questions coming in. So we've got comments. This is a great live. We've got lots of hearts coming through, lots of good to meet yous. I can't see any. I've just got lots of lovely comments here rather than questions. So let me see if I'm missing anything coming through. I guess then for a kind of wrap-up question, the future. So I'm seeing if I can unpin this one. There we go. So as the wrap-up to kind of take us to the end of this, because I think we could talk about this topic for a long time ahead. And I'm looking forward to more of these conversations in events like this one. If you are in Plaza, we're in at 61, -61 in Decentraland right now as part of Decentraland Wellness Week. And to kind of close it, I would love to hear from all three of you and in your experience working over the last year. So much has changed in Decentraland, in the wider metaverse space, in our consideration of spatial computing coming in, the sense that this is a space that's about to explode over the next couple of years. What do you see as, if we're thinking specifically about community, what do you think are the changes that are going to really affect the community that is growing in the metaverse right now? Where do you see it? Where do you see these changes really affecting us in terms of how we're building these connections?
Ooh, I think the advancement of VR and AR technology is going to make interactions more immersive and lifelike. And I also think it's a really good way to onboard new users into this beautiful world that we are building for them and we want to show them. I feel like AR and VR and XR are really the gateway drugs to this existence that we are so privileged to have. I also think, of course, AI is going to be a big player in personalizing these experiences and fostering new forms of engagement as well.
I really love your the way you misspoke right there. You said like life, and I like that better than lifelike, because I do think our virtual interactions and connections need to be more like life. And I think our life needs to be more like the virtual. As I mentioned in the previous question, that I love to blur the lines of what is real and not with nail art. When someone looks at a picture of physical nails I've done and asks me if it's a rendering, I've won. When someone looks at the rendering of nails and asks me if those are real, I've won, and I want to see more out of that in all regards of life. And I want to see that blending and that blurring. And CeeCee mentions AR, VR. Those are amazing technologies that allow us to do that. Metaverse as well. So I think as all these things start to develop, become smaller, more accessible, easier to obtain, we will just continue to blur these lines of reality. And who knows, maybe we'll create a new version of it that we call it in the future.
Oh, I love that, like life. I think that as this progresses and we're all spending more time in front of screens, I think that inevitably it's going to be really important to blend these experiences off screen. So maybe driving the AR into the real world a little more than behind a screen. Similar to Pokemon Go, get out and experience it. Go meet your metaverse friends if it's safe and, obviously situation depending, but I think more blurred in real life experiences with metaverse experiences. Like for me, music is, the basis of everything that I do. So for virtual concerts, I would love to see live concerts blending the metaverse experience so that if I'm at the show in real life, I can also see my metaverse friends as holograms or in VR, or just, take the glasses on or off and have the like life experience on both sides merging.
I love this. I love the sense of like life and this merge between our digital worlds and whatever we call the non-digital right now. I guess to kind of bring this together, because we officially only have 50 seconds left, but I think we can push this a little bit more. If anyone is joining us right now in Decentraland for the first time, if they've joined us at 61 -61 in World, or they've found us on the Twitter feed, or they've found us on LinkedIn, where can they go next to see your work, to be part of the communities that you're part of, to start connecting with Decentraland in a very meaningful way, in a way that they can connect into community? What would be their next step?
Well, for me in Decentraland, the True Band Room, which is located at 177, you'll find us there almost every day running live events with independent musicians and DJs. And we've introduced a few new like variety shows with giveaways and all sorts of fun things. And for every event you attend, you also get a free NFT airdrop. So lots of collectibles going on. So that's where you'll find me. And that is located in SpottieLand at 177 in Decentraland.
Next event, do you want to give it a pitch? When's the next one?
Oh, this Saturday, Beat Street Saturday with a kid called Beast, Beast member, Crover 9000. It's usually a marathon event. So if you come in at Saturday at midday in the US, we will likely be there for many hours after that.
Fabulous.
And for me, if you'd like to explore more, learn more, and join a wonderful community, you're always welcome at Metaverse Monday. We are every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a location at the MRT, which is the Meta Residence Towers. We are also in Spatial, if that's something you're interested in. We have a studio there. And then we partner with Vita TV, who broadcasts us throughout the metaverse, 9 different worlds, hundreds of different platforms. So you can always catch us every Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, anywhere you're at.
And I guess I'll trying to think about like how many I want to show. So I guess if you're in Decentraland, ABC Decentraland, we do tours 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays with Billy T. Coin, Oddjob, and myself. We tour Decentraland. We go from location to location and we learn more about it. We talk about it. If we get the creators and builders on, then they'll talk about it. We'll ask them questions. So that's always really fun to just kind of see what's out there in Decentraland. There's Community Building Decentraland. They have a Twitter space and a server. Come join that. It's kind of like we call it the gazebo in which the community all meets under, because it is a community of communities. It's not meant to be like the one or an entity. Is just a place for people to sort of congregate and develop plans. The Metaverse 3, which we all 3 are part of, we do those the 3rd Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Eastern. We do those on Twitter Spaces or X Spaces. We also stream to YouTube, Kick, and Twitch. And on Mondays, I've been doing streams of RuPaul's Drag Race at the Dollhouse since I've done nails for a queen that's on the show. And yeah, so 10 p.m. Eastern, come watch some drag and learn a little bit more about it and maybe see my nails.
I love this. I could talk with you all. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation for Decentraland Wellness Week on fostering community and meaningful connection in virtual worlds. If you have joined us and you've enjoyed this awesome conversation, please do share. You can share it on Twitter. You can get the word out a little bit further about all the incredible tips and suggestions that we've shared in this presentation today. If you are with us at 61-61, we are now diving into the WIP meetup. You are going to meet Rizzle and Matt and the whole WIP meetup crew, one of the longest running metaverse meetups, who are going to have an anarchic tour, as always, across Decentraland Wellness Week. We are going to be gathering right now in Blisa's incredible installation, the mesmerizing meditation Meta Party Vibes, which is at 64-59. So if you're ready to have a tour in the world with the WIP crew, you can join us there at 64-59. I know everyone's gathering now. But before we do, just a huge thank you to HICeeCee, Shelley, Van, and CK Bubbles for everything that you've contributed in this panel. It has been a privilege. Thank you so much.
I too am raising my arms like their VRMs. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. We absolutely love you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.